Yo, 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 what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Black Nerd Fridays. Today we're
Hey.
discussing Kite, and of course, I got my co-host with me, the man, the guy that we have private conversations about a bunch of different stuff, my homie D. Neal.
I'm in here. What up?
Also, the scientist, the professor, the one who has a perspective that we always have the same thing on point, Mrs. Kinky Sudz.
Sudz.
What's good with you? How you doing today?
I'm excited, man. This is, we got to do this rotation. Next, it should be Sudz that leads the live and get it going.
Yeah,
I like this.
Yeah. I hear you talking over here. I hear you talking. So, anyways, we talking about Kite today. But before we get into that, as always, this is Black Nerd Fridays, but we also enjoy more than just sci-fi, anime, movies, etc. We drink beer.
That's right.
What is it that y'all guys are drinking on? Because I'm gonna break mine out last. We're gonna start with the homie, the lady, Mrs. Sudz.
Suds.
So I'm gonna first start off with my glass that I have.
Oh,
It's
nice.
a new glass from Beer Selfie with one of our favorite glass makers.
Yeah, that drip.
Drip.
I'm
actually gonna have beer in it this time because some people.
I know, right? I told you, Sean D would not respect that water.
Well, we're giving me crap.
Just keeping it on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to go with themes. So I came up with this tangerine creamsicle froyo.
Nice.
And this is from, because like you said, I am a scientist.
Yeah.
Ingenious Brewing Company. Look at that.
Nice.
8.2%. Okay.
I love
this bad boy it was actually brewed and canned in Humble, Texas. Humble, right? I was like, what? But this is a hazy IPA made with lactose, vanilla beans, oranges, and tangerines. I picked this one because since we're talking about children assassins, I just thought, they didn't really have an opportunity to enjoy their childhood, which we all had, like some type of creamsicle ice cream thing when we were a kid. So I wanted to go with that theme of just having it with kids and have it something be kind of sweet because it is you would think it would be kind of a sweet thing because it's kids, but it actually isn't. It's not sweet at all. In a sense, it's lost.
Shit ain't sweet out here.
Yes.
Nah.
So, D. Neal, what you got, homie?
Oh, man, you already know. I had to bring it. No, shout out.
He got 5 beers.
I only got 4 today, but shout out Crownland Hops, Tio and Benny. You know what I mean? They came to the town, Oakland, California. And they definitely stopped by. Now, the beers that they had, that was like the one they just released, the Undead Couldn't Kill Him or something like that. The one that
Zombies.
The zombies. Yeah, zombies couldn't kill him. He's they already on their way to Vegas, I think this weekend or today. But that one went really fast. They also had a kettle sour that was like a key lime pie that was
yes,
great.
It was in the green can.
Yes,
I love key lime pie, by the way.
Yeah, I got a couple pictures with Tio, man. I love Tio to death. Very, very big inspiration to me. Him and Rob Archie, who I'm going to.
Old man with the raspy voice. It sounds like wisdom.
Oh man, I told a horrible, awkward joke at the end, and I didn't think Tio got it. So I was like,
he's like, man.
I gotta double back when I see him again. But real quick, so I don't take too much time. So I'm doing the Three Weaver. You know what I mean? This is their West Coast IPA. Definitely, it's 6% ABV. So that thing is pretty nice. I'm trying to get that zoom just right on that. Also. I went to shout out to Oak Park Brewing Company in Sacramento, California, but I'll get to them in a second. Also, I got there. They did a collaboration with Full Circle, and this one's called Circle of Crowns. And I love this one, man. That Full Circle logo with the skull, colorful. And then you also have the Crown and Hops crown, of course. This is their second collaboration doing this, bringing this back. And this one is a sour tart ale, and it definitely is tart, like for real. And it's the ABV on this joint is 5.6%. So I know if Brick's on watching, shout out to Brick. He gonna be like, "Come on, man, where's the high ABV?" But that's coming, man.
I know I'm higher than you today. I'm at 8.2. Come on, man.
Hey, but I got 4 though. So and then you got the shout out to Oak Park Brewing Company with their Brewteenth on Juneteenth. That was fun. Episodes coming for that on the Beer Talk Now podcast. But definitely had to get this joint right here. That's their Indian Pale Ale right here.
Nice
People's beer. This is a 6.7. And got the man, the myth, the legend,
Yes.
the reality, excuse me, not the myth, the real person on there for the Juneteenth. And last but not least, and I'll shut up, is I got the good old Temescal Brewing Company out of here in Oakland, California, North Oakland to be exact. And it's the Reunion Double IPA. Really enjoy this one. This is just, and then the can art is hilarious. It reminds me of like a Rick and Morty episode, which we definitely got to talk about. We definitely got to get to Rick and Morty because this season is hilarious. And this one is I think it's like 8% if I'm not mistaken, but let me not play myself and lie to y'all for real. I'm right, 8.5. So, I'm gonna start off with the three. Yeah, I'm gonna start off with the three weaver. Definitely gonna do the tart ale last. And we're gonna go IPAs all day because my stout game, I just ain't got the barrel.
I was gonna say the one thing I wanted to add and a little bit of fun fact. I don't know if you guys know, but on the person that's on the Oak Park brewing can.
Yeah.
Supposedly supposed to be the most photographic person or most photographed person from back in the day.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Really?
Supposedly.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, well, you know how that go. That go around not thinking black people are human first, and then also not thinking that they're intelligent. When we are beyond intelligent. Matter of fact, y'all always stealing our shit. But that's another topic. And I'm gonna pour up. I'm gonna let Mr. Refine get on it. You know what I mean? We gotta keep it black all the way, baby.
That's a fact. Well, today I'm gonna go with something a little cocoa crazy. This is a Imperial Stout from Other Half. Is raw coconut milk, and toasted coconut. 14%. I brought out some high ABV stuff because this movie was deep, man. It was a lot of stuff going on. It was dark, just like the beer, but it also had a little things that I wanted to add. I needed to add some sweetness because you had some kids in there. So it was a dark, deep movie. Now, as always, we always talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're going to start out with Kinky Sudz. I want to know what your good is on this show, because before you go ahead and speak a speech, I have some stuff I want to say, and I'm going to let you get it all off. I ain't gonna cut you off. I'm going to let you get it off. But this show was very, very dark. It was filmed in 1998. And from what I understand, it might even be banned right now in the U.S. So watching this movie, I keep saying show, watching this movie was something new. It brought back memories to me of Blade Runner-esque and just a different vibe from that time. So go ahead, Kinky, speak your speech. What's your good on it?
Man, I have to say, if you don't know, if you haven't watched it yet, I'm just going to put it out there that there may be some triggers while watching this movie. But I think overall, the fact that you're going with children that are assassins and some of the technology that was used in particular with the bullets, I thought was really interesting. It was very action-packed from the beginning to end. And it really got you wondering towards the end, like, what's next? So the whole idea that you have this young girl who's thrown into this adult theme and an environment, and she's trying to make her way through the world, and she finds someone of the same age as her who, again, got pulled into this world that they didn't want to. It was really interesting seeing how those two had developed over time. But I think that there was a lot of things that about them as characters that you get hints of it, but I wish, we got a little bit more. But I thought it was really interesting to see this type of dynamic between adults that are exploiting children, because this is something that happens. We see a lot happening in our world today. So I really loved the story. I thought the fight scenes were really good. And I think another thing, too, is there's on YouTube, someone had created a nice little took sequences from the fights in the movie and paired it with the song that it really well. And so I think if you watch that after watching this movie, you're just like, man, it really took a lot of powerful parts and blended it well with the music. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought the characters were great. But I'll get into some of my bad and ugly. But overall, I really loved it. I really loved it.
Good. So D, what was your thoughts on that good?
5 minutes, no joke.
No, definitely with the good. The artwork was amazing. I love the expression in the eyes when there was no expression. Like it really just really showcased the aspect of just being drained and lost, and then at the literally like a flick of a switch, then the eyes have emotion. And I'm talking about Sawa, the main character. I thought that just that level of detail, even though it had a very stereotypical big eye Japanese eyes. At the same time, it almost had the doll, like almost glazed over type aspect. But I really enjoyed watching characters' facial expressions, and you just really got outside of the children assassins' eyes, everyone else's eyes, adults and everything. Their eyes were very warm. It showed a lot of emotion. But it was like void of emotion, and then for Sawa to just turn it on and have that emotion again, like I was like, this is pretty epic. So they really paid a level of detail that I really enjoyed.
I like that. I like that. Y'all both hitting on some very good notes. I'm gonna go with just straight up out the box, out the gate. I really, really love the animation. I was getting Akira, Ninja Scroll vibes, just that old school classic vibe to me. Like I said, it was a little Blade Runner-ish because based upon like it looked futuristic. And even at the beginning when she took somebody out and jumped off the top of the building, and you know, the music, that jazz music, that just got me. It really, really
Cowboy
got me.
Bebop.
Like the music. Yeah, it had that Cowboy Bebop feel, but this is pre-Cowboy Bebop. So
it is.
We gotta give cadence and respect on the name of what it is, but it was very, very good, very well rounded. Like I said, it was a dark movie. I loved the music, loved the animation, and I'm sure that they could have done a lot more with it. And I believe they might have did something else, which we'll talk about later on.
I actually watched the second movie thinking it was a continuation of something, but it was totally different.
Liberation or whatever it was.
Yeah, and I watched that whole thing, and I was just like,
none of the characters are in there.
I was like, y'all just,
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
All right. So, with that all being said, what's your thoughts on the bad? Because as always, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And my good is what it is. But I like to know your thoughts on the bad. And I'm gonna start with you, D. What's your thoughts on the bad of this movie, if you have any at all?
Yeah, I mean, my bad on the movie is just the yearning to want to know why for Sawa's character, like why. Spoiler alert! I mean, 1998. Come on, why her parents were killed? Why did I got my notebook? Shout out to the trusty duck.
Let's see if he gets it right.
Notebook out here.
His name's right.
Akai, or AKAI, with the detective. Why he and what the other dude's name is? You know, see, that's why I take these damn notes so I can remember who the hell he's.
Start with a K.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Say his name one more time.
Kaney.
Yeah, Kaney. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. But he, I wanted to know why they did that. I also wanted to know why they just kept killing celebrities. Like it was just like celebrity after celebrity after celebrity. It was really. I was like, does he get? And I mean, he did talk. Akai talked about it, about what he just likes to see, which is people's pain. Which I was like, this dude is just epically like disgusting beyond disgusting. At the same time, it was like I felt like there was somebody pulling his strings. So it really focused on Sawa and Akuri or Kuro, whatever how you pronounce it. Yeah, Akuri on him. But I was just like, man, that was only my only bad. Like I really wanted the show to dive more deep or deeply or go for part 2 if that was possible, to really kind of give some like just more stuff of like who these people are. And when we get to the ugly, it ties into this on my bad, because the ending for Akuri, I was like, but I want to know, like, did that person not know that what Akai what was going on with him? Like, it was just so much. So that's all for me.
Got it. Well, I want to know yours, because and you can't get too ugly, Denise, because I know you got your ugly, which is what we really gonna get into, but don't get there yet.
I'm not. I got my bads. My bad for me is, so when you think about the people that they were killing, there was no verification on the type of injustices each of these persons had done. Right? There was no way. We were basing it solely off of these two guys who we know are manipulating children, are telling them to go do, right? So there was no verification of what was going on. So it's like, okay, are you killing people because if they're corrupted cops already, which we know, are you killing them because they wouldn't agree to your terms or what, right? So it was really interesting to see that piece of it. I think the other thing for me is, like I said, you get hints at each of the characters' backgrounds, but not enough. And it keeps you wanting more, which it's good, but at the same time, since they never followed up with it properly, it makes it kind of like, it's a bad for me. But I think the other thing for me is how it ended. That to me was just like the biggest like cliffhanger you could ever possibly
That's
get.
a fact.
Yes.
And for me, when Buri, I should say, when he,
I got his name wrong. My bad.
no, it's okay. In the beginning, you see how he comes off really like standoffish, I don't care, and how he treats the one kid in the beginning with her basketball, and then it comes full circle, right? When he has this change of heart, when he starts to see that maybe this life isn't right, I need to get out of this, that you think he's going to get this story of redemption, and he doesn't. So for me, it was like, you could tell he was manipulated, just like Sawa, differently, but in the same sense of getting pushed into something he probably really didn't want to do. And yet his life gets cut short, right? So sure, he's killing people, which we know isn't right, but did he really have a choice prior to that? Not really. So for me, I always felt bad in that regard of how his story ended. But at the same time, like I said, my bad. It's just like, why would you leave me hanging? You could have given me something. It's just like how they did at the end of The Killing Joke. You don't really know if Batman killed the Joker. You're assuming he did, but we really don't know, right? So it's just like one of those where you're just like, I can't. So that's my bad.
Don't bring Batman into this conversation.
Yeah, look, no, that's all
bring
good.
Batman into this.
It's all good. We
have
even go down that road.
measured Batman. Anyway, go
ahead. Go down that road.
No, because I can say the same thing about Iron Man, but we're not gonna get into that.
Thank you. We ain't gonna get into that. Anyway,
Iron Man would take people out.
Power.
It's just that everybody else be like, no, Iron Man don't do it. Batman on that.
Stop it.
Batman's on that. I feel alone because in reality, I'm still, even though I've been through all this stuff in life, I'm still that little boy crying. And then you letting all the black people in Gotham get to deal with all of your craziness with your white billionaire self. And yes, Tony Stark is a trillionaire, and and the only reason we say he got parents issues is because of the movie, because in the comic books it's because he's an alcoholic. But at least he had a black dude who was trying to tell him, "Hey man, I need you.
And they replaced the black man because they didn't want to pay him in the first movie. But
I'm not saying Iron Man bad. Anyway, we're back on Kite. Go ahead.
Yeah, we off there. This is a conversation we're gonna have off the screen. But my bad. I'm just gonna keep it real short and sweet. I didn't like that little fake Bruce Willis character. It was like P. Willis, which they were twins, and they had a mole which Fowler had to assassinate him. And I did love the scene, but I didn't like that aspect of it. I thought that was a little corny. They could have came up with something better than that. And I don't like the way that they left it like hanging. I felt like they could have gave you more. And as you said, Denise, that cliffhanger on the end of the movie was just crazy. It was like, yo, what happened? And we're going to kind of get into that because I got some thoughts on who I think or what I think happened at that point. But that's kind of my bad right there. I don't have too much on it. We're going to get into the ugly next because this movie is just, like I said, it's dark, it's graphic, it's good. And I'm going to let Denise go first on this ugly because this is what we've been waiting to get into. So go ahead, sis, speak your speech.
Man, so I think, the most obvious one is just the fact that you had this man who, in my honest opinion, had set this up from the jump, right? Like he saw an opportunity, and this is pretty much a long con on his part to eliminate her parents, get this young girl, manipulate her to what he needs her to be. And he took full advantage of her. I mean, full advantage of this young girl. And she's supposed to be a teenager, so I'm thinking she's probably supposed to be around the age of like 14 or 15, maybe around that age.
I was thinking like 13, 12.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, part of me wants to. Yeah, but still, she's underage, right? So
yes,
and we know that some of this. So back when you look at a lot of the animated movies back during that time, so like Kite, Perfect Blue, these movies really push the envelope with content that nowadays would not really fly. And this is why I think if you are to watch this movie, I like to make sure it's explicitly clear that there's a lot of triggers in this movie. And the fact that he is pimping this girl out for his own desires and for others to use
Talk that
was
talk.
just like really interesting, because this is something that happens a lot. And so when you think about sex trafficking that's going out there right now, human trafficking that's going on right now, young girls are always being kidnapped and turned out. And so they really were pushing this idea that, sure, she's a powerful assassin, but deep down she's stuck within, her own cage, this dungeon that has been placed upon by someone who was there to protect and serve. So you kind of have to say, well, he's protecting his own interests while serving his own desires, and that's the way that I saw it. But I think for me, it was really interesting that they pushed the envelope with that. And it also makes me kind of think that were they doing the same thing with Aburi? So they never showed it. But again, we also know that young boys are also known to be trafficked as well. And so they never showed that about him. But it does make me wonder, were they doing something similar with him as well? Because you see, they're picking these kids up at a very young age, a young age. And then you're manipulating them at a time when their brains are still forming. They're soaking up everything like a sponge. And you can instill fear in a child much easier at that age and break them, right? So when they don't have a strong support system or no one there for them, and you keep them kind of closed off from the world, what else are they supposed to do? So the ugly in that piece is that it really plays on the underbellies of what we know happens in our society. But I think they try to at least say, but look, she made it out. But then that cliffhanger comes, which adds to the ugly, because you really don't know if she ever made it out. Like, did she ever get her true liberation, her ability to be able to go live the life that she should have? So, it's ugly. I mean, I think the other thing too is you're not big on graphic, type of content. I mean, the way that the bullets would explode, I mean, it was like really gory. But I do think that piece of him manipulating her in such a way was just like, okay. Because like when you're watching it, I remember when it came out back in 98, and I was around the age of 11 at the time. I was 11. So, and it was interesting because this is when, you're starting to watch a lot of these animated movies and stuff. And I was already reading above of my age, right? So I think I had seen this like when I was I was a teenager. So not when I was a preteen, but when I was a teenager. And it's really interesting when you watch something like that and then you go and watch it again as an adult and you're just like, man, like a lot of things you don't really pick up on, like the grooming aspects and stuff, right? And certain things that he would do or say. But the older you get and the more that you've lived, you start to pick up on these little nuances and you're just like, ooh. So to me, that's the ugly of it. And I will say, as a woman, you hate when they put this type of content in movies, because similar to when you're a black person and you're watching movies and they like to exploit black pain, black trauma, and you see this as a woman and you're watching this and you're just like, I get where you're trying to get at, but is it really necessary? Like, a lot of women have probably had, not to a full extent of being raped, but others may have had something where they were put into a very uncomfortable situation, and seeing that and seeing that she had no way of getting out of it. And they always make it, which is so strange to me, the women are really, really small and the men are very large and imposing. So it gives this like power dynamic amped up, right? So you feel her feeling small and she can't get out of it. So they're playing on that type of aesthetic, but it's also like, do we really need to always have that type of imagery when it comes to female characters? And I know a lot of that stuff would probably fall under fan service, which of course, you kind of got to say that's kind of fucked up. But, for some it might be because it plays into that fantasy of control. So there was a lot going on with that, but I'm gonna pause there to let, my co-hosts get their say. But to me, that was like, there's a lot to unpack with that.
No, I feel you. It was dark. It was heavy, and it's a lot to say about this movie. You can digest it. You can put it out different ways, but you always pick up on one main theme on there. And I ain't gonna really speak on it, but it was a deep, dark movie. And we're gonna let my man Neal get into his oh yeah, go ahead, get your pour on. Go ahead. We're gonna let you get into your thing.
I'm just on my part 2 out here. I know y'all.
Oh, you finally made it to the second one. Okay, all right.
You said I finally made it to the second one?
Finally made it.
Oh, by the way, cheers, y'all.
Cheers.
Yeah, we didn't do cheers.
We didn't do that. Clink. Yeah, we got to clink the glasses.
That pour going, ladies.
That's a nice pour right there. Nice head.
Good amount of head.
That's right, man. That's that
Good
Oak Park right there. That's that Oak Park IPA. Shout out Roz and Jeff, Oak Park Brewing Company, Sacramento, California. Stand up. My ugly.
Let it simmer.
A little messed up right there. Yeah, my ugly really was kind of not kinda. It was that in between of Sawa's just the way that they try to showcase her mind. And it really came into play when she was talking to Oberi and having a conversation about Akahi, and then God damn it.
Akai.
Akai. I said Akai, and then what's his name?
He making up whole new characters.
Yeah, I am. I'm here saying Okaru and all this stuff. My bad. Anyway, that's why I got the co-host there. Shout out to the co-host. Yeah, it was just in that conversation, the way that the earrings played such a huge role. Again, spoiler alert, 1998. The blood of her parents were put into those earrings by Akai, and it was just, to me, it was like the ugly part was just the way the manipulation not only played out, but then even her realizing that yes, she knew all along that it was both Akai and Kanan who were really behind it. And to your point, Sudz, about how they try to show like these overpowering looking men compared to her as a young woman, probably just, she was in her teenage years there. She was like in her 16 years old. But reality was, to me, like it just didn't make any sense, because this is a trained assassin. And I understand the manipulation aspect that will make it look big, but then also, which again ties into my ugly, is like that form of like when the sex scenes were shown from again, I'm keeping 100, from her being raped as a preteen to her actually being in this sexual relationship with this pedophile, just disgusting person, and to kind of like almost characterize it as like there's a sense of familiarity with those two, to why even though she knew it was them and she was being manipulated, it was almost like I'm not doing this. And then you put Oberi in there, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, let's run away together, as far as like she had no other way to escape. And it just that badass assassin, and then the I'm in some type of relationship with this person. And I know that realistically, from women who've been sexually assaulted, or just men as well, or manipulation in general, it can do that. But it just really, that was like my ugly, because I was like, she knows, but it was like, oh, she has to wait on another man. I think that's what I'm really getting to. She has to wait on another man, which is not even he's a young man. Wait on him and meet him. And it's like, oh, now because I've met someone who I get to ask these questions with truthfully, and maybe Oberi is not lying to her, and she felt that way, at least how they showed it. That now she's like, okay, yeah, I want to get away. And I was just like, that's really what I'm getting at, is like, even with that, it was still like a man coming to save her, even though she's a trained killer. And like that just that was my ugly for me.
Can I add something to that before you go?
Go right ahead, sis.
The only thing I will say about that is I agree with you. They do that a lot. Again, that's another thing that they do with female characters, is that it has to be a man that awakens their power. They did that with Wonder Woman, which I'm not going to get into. That's a side note. But it was just interesting that they always have that. But I think for me, when I tried to look a little bit past it, is maybe at that point, like you said, she knew all along. And it was either a couple of things. One, she probably felt like she couldn't really get away because he's a cop. And she really didn't know how far his reach was. So the only way that she could probably get out from under him if she kills him. But again, there's two of them. So how do you get them in a point where they're vulnerable, where she could actually overpower them, right?
Yeah.
So when she finds and comes across Oberi, who is just like her, well-trained, and he too wants to get out of it, she's like, maybe here's my chance, because now there's two of us that could go against these two. And at the same time, when she sees that he isn't like the two guys that have been kind of, ruling her life all this time, she's probably thinking, okay, maybe not all men are the same, right? Because again, every time she came across a man in her dealings, either she was killing them or they were raping her. That's the only ways that she could really have that, right?
Yeah.
So Aburi was giving her something different. He was her age. He was giving her that idea of fresh. Yeah, we're damaged, but look, we still have a long life ahead of us. So that's the way I tried to view it, and not going down its typical trope. But a part of me was just thinking that maybe that might be the reason why she finally decided to say, you know what, let me take my chance. And of course, when one of the guys gets taken out and, Aburi gets hurt, she finally says, you know what, there's only one of you, and you're really the one who's causing the most damage for me to begin with. So she finally was able to take him out. But I do get your point that it does seem that, again, she needs that type of push from a man to finally take that step. But yeah, that was my...
And I completely got that. My bad, Mr. Refine. I completely got that. It just really it disturbed me in the...
He froze up.
Yeah, he froze
yeah,
up.
He got that. That's that Oakland internet, bro. I hope he come back.
He was about to drop some major heat.
He might have been. He might have been about to drop some bombs on us. They ain't want to let him get his speech out. But till he comes back in, if he got to drop on, he probably hears us. We hear. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and say my ugly. First off, the whole manipulation was just crazy. Now, we don't know why they killed her parents. We do assume, because it's not even 100% sure, that the earrings that she wore had the blood of her parents. We don't 100% know that. We're assuming that. But what was very, very ugly to me was those sexual assault scenes, just over and over and over. And it wasn't one time. It was several different times. We're going to start at the time when, right after she walks into the house and sees her parents dead and all messed up. And then here is the quote unquote cop right here to save you. Right. But behind it all, this is the guy who did it. This is the guy who did it. And he's acting like he's the cop there to save you. And then right into that, this girl's probably 12, 13 years old when this happened. She goes to his house or whatever, and he sexually assaults her. That right there messed me up. I'm not even going to lie to you. And in the way that they were showing graphic details of this. This is an animated film. This is an anime. Right. Like the fact they was able to do that and they did it was crazy. And then not only did this happen once, it happened again and again. And the last one was when they had Aburi and he was, watching, bucking the system, and he about to get it, do his own thing, and him and her about to go off, do their own thing. They made him watch, you know what I'm saying? And it was very, very messed up. But as you said, Denise, it brings reality to a lot of things that happen in this world today. And I thought it was just crazy, crazy, crazy. I don't know what else to say. It was very, very dirty, very graphic on that aspect. Yes. But I do like how it unveiled and opened up some of the truths that we deal with today. And I wish that they would talk a little bit more about that, like in life, because we already know the things that young kids, whether it be a boy or a girl, because as you said, we don't know what Aburi went through when they got him, how they manipulated him. I'm pretty sure they probably did the same thing, whether it was sexually or physically. They got him scared somehow, some way. And they was even, taking Sawa into that little sewer tunnel to kill who were supposed people that were doing wrong. And this is probably how they manipulated them to take out all these celebrities. Oh, they're doing this wrong and they're doing that wrong. You need to take them out. So it was just very dark, dark hole. And I would love to see some more of that. I wish they would elaborate a little bit. But anyways, we're going to move off that right now. So my next question, and I don't see D here. He ain't back yet.
Yeah, he dropped off. He
definitely did. My next question will be, who did you enjoy? What was your favorite character right now? Like out of all these people in here, who did you love the most?
Man, I don't know if you really can love any of the characters because they all were just so sad, right? Like some were just terrible to begin with, but when you start looking at two of the main characters with Sawa or Buri, I mean, you want to like them because you're like they lost their innocence, they're still children, but at the same time, it was like they were just so dead inside, right? And I mean, it makes sense after what they've been through, and you basically have in your hands, someone's life, but at the same time, your life is in someone else's hands, right? So
Mhm.
it was really interesting seeing that dynamic. But I think the other thing too is that with her guardians, as they like to call them, I mean, they were just terrible people. I mean, they were not only the ones taking advantage of her, but they bring in other people. And they had no remorse whatsoever. They didn't care.
Zero.
And I mean, the thing that gets me is like when they got her the earrings, there was blood in them, but we don't know if it's her parents. But the fact that they would give her some type of sick reminder of that these are
Mhm.
your parents, but they made it sound like it was such an endearing gift. It's like, how do you do that, right? Like, how do
Yeah.
you give her something to constant reminder of the death that she had seen? So I don't know if I really have anybody that I would say that I was like, oh, I really love this character, because for each one of them, it was just like, you're fucked up. I feel bad for you. Like, it was just like pretty much, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I really have anyone that I like would say enjoy, because enjoy makes it sound as though like when you saw their journey. Oh,
Hey,
he's back.
no,
Yeah,
It's
hey,
he's
just like
back.
you
it's
could
like
have
when you
kept going. Sorry, says
Yeah,
no.
go
no,
ahead.
no,
Go
it's
ahead.
okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
It's just like when you see his journey, right? Like when you see their journey, it's not like you're like cheering for them, right? Because
Mhm.
every time they made a step, it was like something terrible happened, and you're just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's what I think for me, I can't say personally that I enjoyed a character. I would say I sympathize
Uh-huh.
with a character, I empathize with them, but enjoy? No, I can't even say you enjoy the movie because it's an interesting concept, but then at the same time, it's like you want to say that with a little bit of an asterisk. Like, I'm not saying I enjoyed certain parts of it or that I agree with the content, but it was just like
Yeah.
that's all I
Yeah.
could. It's like you got to get the deadpan look.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So D, you gotta get up on your ugly. I want to hear what you're saying. You might have been about to drop a bomb on
Oh
us.
man, I was going to, and then I got pissed off because I was like, wait a minute, I checked the Wi-Fi, everything's fine. It was just a computer, so I just reset it and it was good. Just the ugly, I just was like, I just really was just disgusted in the sense of like, I like a victim. You can never blame the victim. What pissed me off was that again, the ugly part, having Obery come in there, and I understand the aspect of someone that was the same age, and someone who was it's like you said, Suds, when we were talking on our last episode about Princess Mononoke. If Lady Eboshi, if she was a dude, would you still feel the same way? And it really pretty much
Mm-hmm.
Overy came with that testosterone, like I'm a man and like I don't agree with you and you've been using me, but I'm gonna kill you any moment. I'm ready to move on. And it was like, oh, now I see that it's possible, and that just was my ugly and pissed me off. But as far as the characters go, which is going to be hilarious, is that I like Obery. Obery is
Really?
like
Okay.
I like Obery just because Akai was like he's dangerous, and I was like, well, he's dangerous because he's a young, and at least in my perspective, he was taking that he's a young man, he's a trained killer, and he can kill both Kainin and Akai. And I was like, but on top of that, it was the mentality. He wanted to just live a normal life.
Yeah.
He was working at the corner store, and it was like he didn't just take. He did do what they told him to do, but it wasn't through at least the way to back to Sud's point about they didn't show him being raped or show that some type of sexual relationship was there. So really, it was, to me, it was Akai was saying pretty much, I don't have sex with boys or young men, so I can't manipulate them through sex when they're little because I just don't do that. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why he's a problem, because I thought that I could control him, but reality is as he gets older, he's questioning me. And I think all men go through that some shape, way, or form with their father, as far as like as you get older, it's like like you test the waters, and
Mm-hmm.
you always get put in your place, but
Facts.
it's every and I think even in the animal kingdom as a whole, every species, the young male tests the OG.
Yes.
It's never not that case, and also too, the OGs might think something's wrong with you because you didn't test
If
them.
you didn't do it, that's a fact.
So So that's why I like Aubrey, because they made him seem like, yeah, I know this is crazy, but I got to do something different.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go into mine. I actually, I'm an underdog person, and to me, the underdog was Sawa. I loved her the most, and I felt like she used probably the thing that hurt her the most to be able to motivate her to persevere through all the trauma and all the adversity she was going through, to flip it and come back around and, you know, take these dudes out. Because at the end, we all know, spoiler alert, she kills Akai. Like, she takes him totally out. Let's just call it what it is.
She gave that man a 1-2.
Yeah, I respect that, man. I really, really like that.
More than a 1-2.
That even though you manipulated this child, she had a strong mind state, despite the sexual assault, despite the abuse, all that. She was able to come back and still had her mind focused on one goal: to take you out, to find out who her parents' killers was. And she found out that it was you. She put 2 and 2 together, and she took your ass out at the end. So I love it. I love it so much, and that's my character right there. That's what I'm gonna go with. I don't know, man. This movie was just good. It was deep. There was a lot to talk about. Now, what I want to know is, who did y'all dislike? Like, let's talk about that, because we like different characters on it. We like different things about the movie, but who did y'all dislike? And I got to start with Denise first on this one. I'm sure she's going to have something good for me.
Sudz.
I would say, you know, pretty much every adult that was in this thing. I'm sorry.
Everyone.
It's like, come on. Like, even like the ones who, because you could tell the ones that they were taking out through these different contracts, they clearly were up to some stuff. You get what I'm saying? Because when they got, and I mean when they got, you could tell they were like, damn it. And like, hold on, right? And except for the last guy who was just like, who Aburi got set up with, you know, it was just like, he was like, I have no remorse. You're a kid. I will kill you on this subway. I don't care if other people are on this car with me. I'm taking you out.
That
you get
was
what
definitely
I'm
a setup.
It was like, damn. So like, you don't even care that there's other people. And then like the whole scene when Sala was going through and was fighting with the people in the bathroom.
Yes.
Again, they didn't care that she was a small female. They were like, we gonna take you out, type of a thing, right? So it was just like, clearly you know some stuff that's going on, and you know that Akai and his partner, people knew what they were doing, because you're a cop. You know, people see you with this girl. People can put stuff together, and like no one said anything. But again, we know this because we see this happening all the time with corruption within, you know, the public sector, right? Especially with police officers, right? We hear about it all the time. Yes. Why do you think there's such great movies that come out like Brooklyn's Finest, Training Day, all these movies that talk about this, right?
Because it's fat.
So for me, I'm just like, all the adults, like every last one of them, because they all were doing something they should not have been doing. And for the people who were coming in and doing these things to Sawa, you know, putting her through the trauma that she went through, you knew she was underage. Did they care? No, it's just like what they were talking about with Epstein, right? Like it was those type of things that you hear about in the news, where it's like people know, adults know. You can't, like sometimes, of course, they'll say, well, she's lied about her age. It's like, yeah, I could see that. But at the same time, sometimes you look at people and you go, you just look young. And you don't get like that feeling, because we all get that gut feeling, the hair raising the back of our necks, that spidey sense, as we like to call it, that tells you something just ain't right. And it's like clearly in these type of people, it just didn't go off. So to me, I was just like, all the adults gotta go. Gotta go.
Yes. Right. So who did you dislike, D? I gotta hear this one.
Man, I dislike all these predator ass pedophile males that was in there, man. And that's a crazy thing. Like Akai was killing all these quote unquote predators, pedophiles, but he was one himself, and he did it even to the irony. He did it even to the little girl who, spoiler alert, ended up killing Aubrey at the end. And I was like, man, all of them, bro. Like all of them can get it. Like all of them can get the 40 caliber and call it a day. And yeah, I'm just with Sudz on that, so I ain't even gonna take too much more time.
All right, I'm gonna go with mine. I disliked all the adults as well. I'm just gonna be honest, but specifically, I had a very high disdain for Kaney, something about him
Oh,
just
man.
rubbed me wrong. He just looked weird. His eyes,
Yes.
they wouldn't focus on nothing. Something was off with him, and it was obvious because, as you see, after the fight scene with Sawa and P. Willis, the P. Willis twins in the bathroom, she ends up back in the bathroom. I mean, back in the house with him. And what is he doing? Sexually assaulting her. Now, mind you, I'm thinking that she's obligated to Akai, but apparently not. So Kaney had took advantage of her, and something about him was just always off. He always seemed weird to me. They always messed up. Let's just call it what it is. But I really had a high disdain for him, and I wish somebody would blew his brains out a long time ago. I'm just going to say that. So I was glad he got his end in the way that it happened to him. I'm glad that it was Oburi who took him out, because I thought for sure when Akai lifted that sheet, it was going to be Oburi under there. But to see the surprise on his face, like, no, you got my man. You took my man out. I love that. Absolutely love this. So, man, this show, this movie, it does it. It does it. It'll have you through some roller coaster of emotions. It'll get you there. And I want to know, really, based off all this, who did you want to learn more about, or better yet, who did you want to see have a good ending? Somebody, as is put in here, walk off into the sunset. That's what I'm gonna go with.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, D. You can go ahead.
I wanted Oburi to walk off into the sunset with Sawa, and I wanted them just to be able to learn from one another. I mean, they had so much in common. They were dealing with the same pedophile predators. Yeah, man, it was just sad having Oburi, and it's sad that Sawa, we don't know who came through the door. I was hoping it was Oburi, but in my mind, it was like it's that little girl that gave him the shot in the stomach.
You had something. You was about to say something before we got into that segment, so I'm waiting.
Nah.
You got the look on your face.
I know that look on her face is like, what?
I know that ending still rubs me the wrong way. Still rubs, but I think walking off into the sunset. Yeah, honestly, I wish Sawa and Oburi had their moment, because they got pulled into something that they did not want to get pulled into. It was just against everything in their fiber. It wasn't where it was like Jason Bourne, who was like, I want to do something cool, and then he forgets his memory. No, these are kids who were taken advantage of at a young age. They got dragged into this, right? So for me, yeah, I would say I would want them to have that moment, especially if you think about Sawa, what she had to go into day in and day out. And then when she was fighting with the two guys in the bathroom and that fall, I think that's probably one of the most iconic, epic fall scenes I have ever seen in my life.
And she survived. That was crazy.
And she survived. And it was like how she used him as the guy, as a kind of a buffer when she would, hit the ground. I'm like, that alone itself was just like, and you telling me that you're going to leave me with a cliffhanger and I don't know if this girl made it, but you show me this dramatic scene? I'm like, come on. So that to me, yeah, I wanted them to at least, or at least have it where if it was the little girl who was coming through the door, that at least Sawa got the shot off at her, And no, don't give me this, oh well, another kid takes the place of another one. Like that to me is just it would be truthful, but it's like I want to escape. I look to movies to escape, not to be reminded of the sadness that we're seeing day in and day out. So
I definitely I'll go ahead, Mr. Fine, but I definitely.
No, I was just gonna say I wanted to see the same thing. I wanted to see Sawa walk up into the sunset, and I really don't think that it happened based upon the ending. But I'm gonna let you go off into this next segment that you want to get into about who came into that door. Matter of fact, we're gonna backtrack just a little second. Just this a question. I don't want a long answer from anybody.
Gotcha.
When did y'all think Sawa broke free from being manipulated?
I'll let Sudz go first.
You know what? Honestly, I think she mentally had broken away for a long time. It's just she was biding her time to do it physically. That's what I'm thinking. Because the fact that when Oburi tried to tell her who actually did it, she was like, I knew. I've known for a long time. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, she probably started putting it together because the girl was just smart when she was going through and doing her kills, right? Like the girl never had any issues. So if you're that smart at that age, right? where you're getting taught this maybe 4 or 5 years ago, right? This wasn't where it was like they took you when you were 5 and were kind of doing this with you like they did in Hannah, that movie where they were teaching her from a young age, right?
Yes.
Like this was like a short amount of time that she's learning how to do this properly. But I'm thinking mentally the girl was already the type that could like figure out ways to get out of situations and knew how to keep quiet, how to bide her time. So I think mentally she had been counting down how she can do this for a while, and she probably put it together not too long because she's like, how quickly was this where you could be the one that would take me as my guardian, right? Like you were there, the first one on the scene and all this. Like you started to put stuff together. But physically, I think was when Aburi came into the picture that she started thinking, okay, I might actually have a chance to expedite this. So that's my
Nice.
thoughts on it.
Nice. Did you want to add something, D, or you want to move on to that big cliffhanger that we're trying to find out
Yeah,
about?
I'm just gonna say real quick, and then we go to the cliffhanger. I just believe she got she broke out the being manipulated when that earring broke. When that earring broke, it was like all the thoughts that Sudz was talking about just rushed to her head, and especially when Kai came in and was like, I didn't find the earring, and he's the one that gave her the earrings, and the way he was so nonchalant about it. And on top of everything, talking with Oberi and everything like that. And then that back to that point I mentioned about having some type of familiarity with him and a relationship, or at least in her mind, it was like, oh no, fuck that. It's time for your ass to die. So,
yeah. I like that. You couldn't say it any better. Well, we got to get into this cliffhanger right now. I really want to know, what do y'all think happened? Who came into this door at the end? Because we all know what happened. We see that Oberi is outside. He's coming back. They think they got a happy end. And Oberi's walking outside. He got the grocery bag in his hand. The girl was playing outside with the basketball again. Mind you, the same girl that he threw the ball into the basket with. He shot it with a gun. And the little girl didn't even flinch. She put her eyes up to block from the dust of the basketball pieces, but she didn't even flinch. The other little kid that was with her, he ran away. So we know she took him out. That was cold. That was sweet as hell. I got to give her credit. Obviously, it was training her, and I knew something was off when she did that. But I want to know, do y'all think she walked into that door at the end? Because Sawa was waiting. What do y'all think happened? We're going to start with Denise on this one.
So I'm going to say this. I'm going to give two things. It leads you to believe that it's the little girl come in and clean up the mess, that cut off loose ends. But a part of me thinks that it would be more sad if it wasn't the little girl, right?
Exactly.
Let's say the guy, Obori, was able to kill the girl because of course she shoots him and he drops a bag of groceries. He's like, oh, okay, I see how it is. Little girl goes shoot me. Let's say he gets shot in the stomach, but he still gets a shot off. And he makes his way slowly bleeding out back to where they were. Because you hear the steps are kind of slow, right? They're not fast. So I'm thinking it's him bleeding going up the stairs. And he probably gets up there. She looks at him. She's thinking, hey, we're about to go live this life. And it comes crashing down to her that just like your parents got taken away from you, this idea of a life that you thought you were going to have, nah. You get to say your last few words to him, but this is it. I think it was Aburi bleeding out, dying with her in that space, and she just probably thought, well, what the fuck do I do now? That's what I'm thinking.
That's exactly what I thought. That's exactly what he said. And that would have made it more it would have made it more of a less stereotypical ending by not having the little girl come in there with the guns blazing, because that would have just been a drag out fight anyway that Sawa would have won. But Oberi coming in there and just falling over and down the stairs, and because the cats didn't make a noise, so to me that made it seem like it was Oberi, and it was just like, that is the way you end something. That's the way you get the realistic pain, without having Sawa, who everyone who would think was the main character, without having her die.
And I think the other thing to add to that too is just the fact that if you had it where he gets killed that easily, it's like all that training that Abura had gone through, especially when he was fighting with old dude. Like, of course, he got into some situations where you're like, he might have gotten taken out a couple of times, but he still was somewhat able to get out of it, although Sawa saved him that one time. But still, up to that point, dude was doing some fantastic stuff. So I'm like, sure, he got shot, but I still think he would have at least got a shot off or something, because dude is a trained assassin. you might get the jump on him, but he's still gonna try and take you out to a certain extent. So that's just me.
No, I hear that. I actually think at the end, I think it was the little girl, and the only reason why I think it was her is because Sawa wasn't even smiling. Like her eyes just looked like there was no emotion. It was just a blah. She already had him kind of close from what I remember. And she was like, okay, just wait a little bit longer, wait a little bit longer. And you hear the cats, meowing, making noises in the background. And then you hear the footsteps and you hear the door open. And she turns and looks, and her face, to me, it's like shock. So I personally feel like it's shock, but no emotion at the same time. I personally think it's the girl, because even though they say she's in the background, say, oh, hey, let's go, let's get the ball, let's play and stuff. I think that doesn't happen. I think she goes up them stairs and puts in that work. That's my opinion on it. So I don't know, man.
Well, one thing I did want to touch on for real is that this aspect of kid assassins is shown in a lot of different anime moving forward. But I think because of Kite, they did tone it down a lot. And one thing I do not like about the Japanese anime, the editorial management, is that they are attempting to hide, just like here in the United States, attempting to hide the truth. And I think a lot of these artists really showcase the truth of how young girls, especially like even when Mr. Refine and I, when we reviewed the Erased on Netflix, and, I lost that. Man, that was a great conversation. I was so mad I lost that.
Yeah,
never again. But even with Erased, just leaving the kids alone, or leaving the kids with teachers and trusting these teachers, trusting these adults. I think a lot of that happens even here too. I mean, leaving it with family members that I mean, rest in power to Whitney Houston, and watching her the movie and how she talked about that with her aunt, who her mother thought she can trust, and all that stuff like that. A lot of this happens, and I think a lot of time for anime, the 90s, again. If you were not in the 90s, as far as like if you were born in the 90s, then you're not dealing with the 90s and how the 90s was. We're talking about Beavis and Butthead, Eon Flux. We're talking about that other MTV cartoon where the dudes like caveman got brought back in the present time, and I keep forgetting the name of that, but in the ball-headed wizard who was trying to kill him.
Yes,
I forgot what it was called.
It kind of reminds you of Turok sort of thing.
Exactly.
Ren and Stimpy was another one too.
Ren and Stimpy. It just really showcased where we were at that time period, and I think just overall, and I'll stop talking, for the generation who's under us, the ones that are born in the 2000s or the late 90s, the ones that are still teens now, and now that anime and comic books and everything are on a mainstream level that it never did see when we were growing up. I hope that they watch things like this, and even though they may be like, I'm disgusted at it, reality is that underlying thing is still there, especially when just a few years ago you got damn Jared from Subway who got arrested and put in jail for his child pornography as well. It's like none of this stuff goes away, and we continually, and now I'm getting on my soapbox and then I'll shut up. We continually think that the world, the United States, which is not the world, the United States is not the world, it's a segment of it. The youngest quote unquote country on the planet. But we really act like just because things have changed some little bit, or you can hang out with people of different ethnicities, or you can marry them or be friends, and you can do all these things, that there's no underlining craziness. I mean, we have a dark side and a light side, quote unquote, to us, the yin and the yang. And like my mom always said, it's good, bad, and ugly in everybody. So we just definitely have to remember that. And I think that Kite showed us that. And that's why I think a lot of people wanted to ban it, because there are little kids right now. I mean, in the Bay Area, in San Francisco, just a few years ago, like there was a raid on a lot of these massage parlors. There was a raid on a lot of different small businesses. And there were a lot of Asian women who are children, who were in these professions of the sex trafficking, and it's in the Bay Area. So I'm just don't think that it's sweet where you at, and think that you're so progressive to the point where you blinded. Always keep your eyes on the swivel, and always understand that good, bad, and ugly, and the yin and yang. And some people go more on one side than the other instead of finding the balance.
Facts.
You know, The
Very
one
well
thing
said.
the one thing I'll add to that is I get that these type of things need to be brought to the light because, like you said, a lot of people like to try and downplay it. Um, I do think that we need to acknowledge that it's happening, but then we need to take action to stop it from happening. And I know a lot of times people like to use art, and this can be in multiple forms, as a way of bringing awareness, but at the same time, when it's made into a way of making profit off of it,
Yeah.
and I say this about Black Pain, and as a woman, I say this again. We think about there's another movie called Irreversible, and it had one of the longest rape scenes ever in a movie, 9 minutes.
Wow.
And this woman, very beautiful woman, is walking home by herself from a party, and she gets attacked in like some little like under passageway, right? And it's long, extremely long, right? And you see this in a lot of movies, like even The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It's movies like that where they constantly are showing
12
these
Years a
type of things.
Slave. Don't forget that one.
Yep.
12 Years a Slave, right? So it's like when you think about these movies and how there's so much focus on this, and we already know that in society women are viewed to be a second tier citizen.
No,
It's
they're
like
just
you're
baby
constantly
makers. That's how
right.
society views. Uh-oh.
It's just really interesting that that they continue to have these type of scenes. And I know during the 90s in animated movies, especially in anime, it was like really a big thing to have. Like I said, Perfect Blue was another one. So it was like in Perfect Blue, it didn't actually happen, but they were mimicking or simulating a rape scene for a movie.
Goblin Hunter too. Goblin Hunter is a big one that a lot of people talk about.
So they talk about this even in Berserk.
Yeah.
What happened with her, right? So when you think about this was something that was constantly seen, and people kind of now I think are numb to it, like, oh, well, it's just media. And you're like, no, until you've actually been through that or know someone who has, or even have come close to that, it doesn't sit well with you when you're sitting there watching that, right? I mean, you don't ever see, like if we really want to get into some stuff, when you think about what they used to do to slaves back in the day called buck breaking, and how they used to do this with the biggest black man that was on the plantation, and they would rape him in front of the other slaves to demonstrate dominance. But you don't see that when they show these slavery movies, right? So if but again, we know that this happened. But again, it's like, do we really,
or where the word motherfucker came from,
right? Or do we really
or how women in every slave movie is shown to be raped and males were raped just the same, and in Japanese culture too. Sorry, Sudz.
Right, but I know, but I'm just saying, but the thing is that we know that these things happened, right? But do you really need to put them into a movie to get your point across? You can lead it up to that point because people know, okay, yeah, we know what happened. But do you really need to show that type of graphic material in a movie? You can still get it across of what happened. You don't need to necessarily make it that long or that graphic. And so to me, it's like, that's always been my biggest gripe with that.
I agree with you on that. And we about to wrap it up in a second. We was just talking, and this is what we do on Black Nerd Fridays.
Listen, I got some 3 out here.
I know you on number 3. I got some stuff I can add, but I'm gonna save it. This is gonna be an off-screen sort of conversation. But anyways, we talked about Kite, the good, the bad, the ugly, what it's all about. If y'all haven't seen it, I highly, highly recommend it. It's a very, very interesting movie. But again, it's Black Nerd Fridays. We show love. We talk about anime, sci-fi, fantasy, all that good stuff. And we definitely do this. We drink beer because that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? That's what brings you together. So I hope y'all follow us on IG, follow us on Facebook, Twitch, definitely on YouTube. And as always, we'll see y'all guys next Friday, Black Nerd Fridays. Peace, y'all.
Shout out to everybody watching. Hey.
Right.
Cheers.
Hey.